What's good, people? It's about that time to randomly relate, reverse rant, no hate. So I decided to do this video, and I wanted to show you guys the receipts because what I saw the other day was about Teofimo and the WBA. Okay, not the WBO, but the WBA. So there's not a it's not me mentioning the wrong organization. It said the WBA. This one says the WBO. So I don't know if they're both trying, which it would make very little sense to me. I got this from an online source, and this is from Michael Benson, who basically tweets, so much about what's going on in boxing. As you can see, now I put these two thumbnails up there for you guys to see. I put the one in the tweet. Now, Bob Arum saying that Teofimo Lopez is the biggest star in boxing since Floyd Mayweather. Now, him saying that, and he said that 2 years ago, he's saying it now, right? Well, at the end of the day, if you listen to Bob, there's always somebody else that's the biggest star. You understand what I mean? Well, at the end of the day, regardless, for people that don't see anything wrong with these hand-me-down belts, look, and this is where somebody made a comment and said what makes it any different from Devin Haney becoming the WBC champion. And to be honest with you, if I have to explain that, you're not too intelligent. Okay, I'll explain it one more time. And I'm just being real because, for you to ask that question, it shows you really just don't understand boxing. The WBC belt, was held by Lomachenko. Lomachenko decided he did not want to fight Devin Haney. He saw more value in the privilege title, which is the WBC franchise. He vacated his belt so he wouldn't have to fight Haney. Let me just say it like it is, okay? He vacated that belt. Haney was his mandatory. It's not Haney's fault that Lomachenko decided he didn't want to fight and he vacated. So this was a situation of, well, you know what? It's not fair that Devin Haney waited all this time in line. Now he's the mandatory. And the fact that Lomachenko decided that he don't want to fight him, well, there's no need to make Haney fight, the next contender for it. So they awarded the belt to Haney. Okay? Simple. And people can say what they want to say. I don't care how much you like Lomachenko as a fighter. Lomachenko is a good fighter and all that. But the man had a loss on his record, and they literally was trying to take the loss off his record. Now, if that's not some favoritism for your ass, you tell me what is. Okay? So the difference is, the WBC belt was awarded to him because his opponent, basically, he forfeited the belt. Okay? At the end of the day, this didn't elevate Devin Haney or give him any special, privileges where he can go fight whoever he wants. No, he just got a belt. And it was trying to call fighters, undisputed who wasn't undisputed. Now, this is a situation where a guy who's waiting in line to earn his spot, finally earn his spot, then he gets stripped. Is it just a coincidence that Shakur Stevenson was the mandatory to fight the winner of Devin Haney and Lomachenko? Mauricio Suleiman says he has no problem with this, and all of a sudden he turns around and with the decision, which Haney got the decision, and all of a sudden now he drops Shakur Stevenson and make Lomachenko the #1 contender. He lost a fight. Shakur didn't lose a fight at all, and he gets bumped by the guy that just lost. Okay, so that being said, this is nothing but a favoritism belt. The WBO sees value in Teofimo, and basically, if he is awarded this, he becomes the mandatory for Terence Crawford's WBO. Well, if that's the case, then the video that I just made, well, this is something different because that information I didn't have until now. So if that would be the case and he becomes his mandatory, well, we see how things go. But at the same time, this is my point. This is a privileged title, and anybody who doesn't see anything wrong with that, That would be like you working at a place and they go by seniority. A supervisor leaves, gets fired, whatever, you're next in line, but because someone is the nephew or the niece of a person, or the son or daughter, cousin, whatever, sister, brother, they get the position over you because of privilege. Would you think that that's okay? No, you was next in line and you got skipped. That's what this is. Everybody, like Jerron Ennis, who's been at 147 all this time, you mean to tell me that Teofimo, because he gets a privileged title, or any fighter, I don't care who it is, if I don't care who the fighter is, they get this privileged title, and then they basically get to fight other fighters, that champions that other fighters have been in line to fight all this time, and then they get denied, they get avoided and overlooked. Now all of a sudden, now you get this shot, and basically you haven't had one fight in this division. Now if you become the mandatory, then no, there will be no warm-ups, no tune-ups, because you become mandatory, then you fight, lose your spot. And you know, the way boxing is so shady and no structure, they could try to find a way to fix anything. End of the day, I'm not for it. It's a privileged belt. That's all it is. So for it to be the WBO, it doesn't change the fact. You know, this is not good. This is not what the sport needs. And again, this is just a privileged, title for someone that is actually handpicked. Okay? Handpicked. This has nothing to do with you earning your spot in this division. This is trash. I don't care who the fighter is. This is a trash move. If this was happening and this was champions fighting champions, it would kind of at least give the fans something that they want to see. But that's no. This is the type of shit where it allows you to avoid mandatories. It allows you to avoid fighters that are dangerous, but high risk, low value, all that kind of stuff. You tell me that it's right that a man can come from one weight class and without even fighting in another weight class just go up and get a shot because he was given a privilege. So the only thing that's similar, okay, is the fact that you were given something that you didn't have to fight for. The difference is Haney was in line to fight Lomachenko and wanted that fight. Lomachenko didn't want that fight. He let his belt go. Okay, so this has nothing to do with Haney being able to go up and down and fight this guy and that guy simply because he don't want to fight certain guys. This will take guys who, at least if you lose the fight with this privileged title, you don't have that banana peel fight. You went straight to the big one and you either won or you lost. And because it's Teofimo versus Crawford, people will go, well, yeah, you know what? He's daring to be great, and that's this or that's that. Look, it's still not fair. And it's not, look, for a challenger to fight the top guys, get to his spot, and get overlooked. If you guys were in that position, you'd see it differently. If you wasn't being fanboys, you'd see it differently. If you wasn't casuals, you'd see it differently. It is what it is, man. You know, when the WBC was the only ones doing it, like I always said, it's going to be a problem regardless because, these guys that hold the WBC, they try to hold a certain prestige, which it's nothing prestigious about being given this shit, because that's what's happening. So now, you mean to tell me you got to go through the tough fights, but someone gets a privileged belt because they're handpicked? They get the fights that you've been fighting for. A guy, fights title eliminators. Even like when I said, if you're not going to mandate this thing, what is so hard about saying, okay, you're in a title eliminator, you're in a title eliminator. The winner, you guys have to fight each other. No, all of a sudden, this guy's priced himself out. No. They need to take more control, but like I said, money is always the first priority to these people, so that's all they care about. And this is why, right now, this guy, Andy Ruiz, has fought 2 title eliminators. Deontay's fought 1. And now it comes down to, I don't want to pay you what you're asking for. Look, at the end of the day, we keep talking about boxing needs structure, but every time some stupid idea comes up, if a fighter is in a position where they get elevated or they reap the benefits, you know, then all of a sudden it's okay. Nah, I don't like this whole, handing out belts to people and then giving them a position to fight, where they haven't earned that position. I mean, when Usyk came up to the heavyweights, he had one fight. Then he fought against Derek Chisora. Then he was wound up being mandatory for Anthony Joshua's belt. Now it turns out that he can beat Joshua, right? And that's what matters. And people are going to try to use that. You see, it had nothing to do with the title, but that's my point. He didn't need any privilege belt. He didn't need an invisible title to become mandatory. All he needed was for it just to be made. That's my whole point. See, so these sanctioning bodies, these people, they can do what they want if they really want to. Usyk didn't become mandatory after only 2 fights just because of some belt. He, even if it was a favoritism thing where, we want to see Usyk, fight for a title, we think he can, whatever. Because there's been people there the whole time, and pretty much they didn't get the shot. And it was their own fault that these, fights didn't happen. It wasn't like it couldn't happen. We know what was going on. And between, AJ Fury and Deontay, and White name came up here and there, but he did it to himself because, people forget that AJ and her, they offered him a fight and he turned it down, saying that it wasn't for enough money. And here's the crazy part, right? He wound up having to fight after fight after fight just to get avoided. Mauricio Suleiman comes out and says that he's the mandatory, then turns around and says just because you're number 1 doesn't necessarily make you mandatory. Like, yeah, Mauricio, we all know that. Your lips said he was mandatory. And then basically he got overlooked time after time after time. So, I mean, yeah, like I said, Usyk didn't need some invisible belt to wind up finding himself in a top spot only after 2 fights. But at the same time, what they're talking about is this would make him the mandatory. Well, hold up. Here's the funny thing. Here's a guy in Tyson Fury, like I said, who's held the title for like 2 years and never had 1 mandatory the entire time. Yet you got guys like Frank Sanchez that's been out there waiting to try to get their spot. I don't care who you think would win. The point is they're not doing things properly. It's as simple as that. I mean, come on, y'all. If you waiting in line and you got groceries, right? You in line and the cashier look past you to the person behind you and go, "Oh, you come to the front." It's like, no, I was here before this person, right? It's simple. How are we going to just skip past me, right? You have a problem with that. It's the same exact thing. And like I said, if it came to a Boots Ennis versus Terrence Crawford, well, people assume that it'd be a bigger fight. Maybe money-wise, maybe, I believe Teofimo, he's more established than Jaron Ennis, but as far as the interest in the fight, even if more people want to see it, it's still not right. And let's just be real. No different from, look, when Terrence Crawford went and fought this guy, Stanonis or whatever his name is, right? No different from this guy that Canelo wound up fighting and broke his nose and all of that. These guys didn't earn anything. They didn't earn anything. This was voluntary defenses. So we can't sit up here and play like, a guy like Jaron Ennis. Oh, they keep talking. You always want to say somebody didn't prove themselves, but the guys, no matter who they beat, no matter how good they look, you always try to wait for that one fight to say, oh, they didn't look that good, and oh, he'd lose. But then at the same time, when it gets to a point where Terrence Crawford's no longer here, the older guys that have moved on, and then the Jaron Boots Ennis's are like the guys in charge or the next coming of, and then now they're in the same position where now their fan base is pushing for them. But guess what? They've been pushed back. What do you think will happen? Jaron Boots Ennis is like 26, 27 or something like that, right? So what you think happens when these guys finally get in their 30s and they realize, all right, they got a team sitting down with them, and y'all saying to forget this. These people, they advise them on what to do and how to do things, because here's the thing, they want to make money. So they're not sitting up here worried about you talking about legacy and this and that at this point. No. And then guess what? We get the same thing. Jaron Boots Ennis is the man at this point, and then he is not being in the fights that you want to see him with. Now he's sitting there. He's 30. He hasn't fought in a whole year. He finally fights. Then he's out for another year. He comes back. He fights, and it's just one fight a year type thing. It is what it is. And y'all don't understand this. Because people accept everything that's thrown into boxing. It might sound good to you, but when you really look at it, you really understand that it's more detrimental than it is a help. There's absolutely no reason to take fighters, give them these invisible belts. I don't even care if you make a physical belt from the hole. The fact is, it's not something you can defend or lose, right? And they're pretty much going to follow one like that same exact business model that the WBC is doing. So, all it is a privilege title. I'll tell you like this. Whatever happens, happens. It's going to be what it's going to be. But what I'll tell you guys as far as what boxing as a whole, you know, you hear fighters saying boxing doesn't have any structure. It needs structure. Yeah. You know the fighters who don't mind saying that are the ones who don't get their way. So even if they're making more money than the other fighters, even if they're in a better position, there's things that they want their way and they're not getting it. So we'll hear them say boxing needs structure. It has no structure, right? And the fighters that's coming up that haven't got that spotlight yet, they definitely feel it. The fighters that's in a position that everything happens the way that they want it to, but they're greedy, you'll hear it from them as well. But they'll accept a title that's a privilege title. So that doesn't say a whole lot. Anyway, I'm not a fan of it. Talk to me in the comment section. Never fall in love with lies. Remember the truth brings hate to other people. And I will catch y'all in the next video.